Hey guys, this is part 14 of my story Torn Apart. I hope you enjoy it. Disclaimer: the characters and pictures do not belong to me. All rights belong to their rightful owners. I don't see the characters the way I portray them in my story. As a reminder, my first language is not English. My English is not the best. This story contains a lot of angst. It will also have plus 16 scenes in later parts. I advise not to read this story if you are under 16 or not comfortable with these topics. Warning: mention of suicide attempt, depression, violence, underage drinking, assault, and sex. Texts between mean that they are the thoughts of the respective person. Osamu's point of view. Atsumu got up and stormed out of the room. He slammed the door behind him. Kiyomi and Motoya got up and followed. Atsumu outside. Sumu ple, ased, don't go. Osamu collapsed. He curled up in a ball on the floor. Suna knelt down next to him and tried to calm him down. Mu please don't hate me. Please come back. Please Osamu felt arms wrapped around him and someone caressing his back. Osamu felt the person hugging him break the hug. Afterwards he felt gentle hands wiping away his tears. He heard the soft sobs of his lover beside him. Baby calm down. When baby is next to me, who hugged me? Samu, take deep and slow breath. Open your eyes and look at me. Osamu slowly opened his eyes. He was surprised to look into his beloved brother's golden brown eyes. His breathing slowly calmed down. He's slowly coming back to reality. Baby. What happened? Spaced out and suddenly started breathing so heavily. You started crying for no reason. I was really worried. Osamu looked around. He still couldn't quite understand what was happening. Looking around, he could see Kiyomi standing by the bathroom door. Motoya walked up to him with a glass of water in hand. Atsumu knelt on the ground in front of him. His brother looked very concerned. And Suna knelt beside him with tears running down his cheeks. Motoya held out the glass and bent down in front of him. Drink this. It will help you to calm down. Don't forget to breathe deeply. Take deep and controlled breaths. Osamu, can you tell me what happened? Osamu shook his head. Toya, can you? Motoya nodded. A little flashback. Motoya's point of view. We just need a moment. We'll be right back. Okay, the bathroom is over there. Atsumu and Kiyomi went to the bathroom together. Motoya smiled after the two. It's nice to see those two so happy again. If you get Atsumu back to being as bad as he has been for the last 5 weeks, I will personally make sure you never hurt him again. Atsumu isn't as strong as he makes everyone think. Choose your words carefully so that Atsumu doesn't get hurt. He is family to me and I will protect him. Do you understand me? Osamu nodded. His breathing got a little heavier. And Suna, Atsumu didn't tell us exactly what happened between you two, but I can see that he still cares about you. But I also saw how much you hurt him. I will never forget what he said to me after talking to you. Tears ran down Suna's cheeks. Osamu's breathing quickened. Osamu was unresponsive. He was trapped in his head. He started crying and collapsed. When Atsumu came out of the bathroom and saw his brother on the floor, he ran to him and took him in his arms. End of little flashback. Osamu's point of view. Then I only dreamed the things you told me? Yeah, we haven't started talking about what happened back then. Atsumu took off his jacket and put it on the sofa. Kiyomi sat down. Atsumu sat down next to Kiyomi. Motoya sat down next to Atsumu. Atsumu was nervous and curled his fingers. Motoya and Kiyomi each took a hand from Atsumu, which calmed the blonde down a bit. I want to tell you before we start that I'm very nervous and a little scared to talk about everything. But I want us to sort everything out so we can be a family again. Atsumu clung to the hands of his two companions. Osamu and Suna sat down across from the three friends. Osamu clung to Suna. He held on to the only thing that could calm him down. Atsumu, I'm so scared to talk to you. I'm afraid you'll hate me even more afterwards. I miss you so much. I really want you back in my life. But if you never want to see me again after the conversation, I'll try to accept it. We should start at the beginning. I suggest you tell us how it all started. Flashback to the day all started. Atsumu and Suna came home together after training on a Friday and made themselves comfortable in the living room. They watched A Christmas Prince together. Osamu sat next to Suna and watched the movie with them. Why do I feel so uncomfortable? Why does it bother me that Suna is so attached to my brother? When King Richard got down on his knees in front of Amber at the end of the film, Osamu had a thought that made him understand his feelings. One day I want to do the same with Rin. Wait, what? Does that mean I'm in love with Rin? With each passing day that he saw Atsumu and Suna so close, he became more and more jealous and envious of their friendship. When Atsumu got together with Kita, he thought it was his chance to go out with Suna, but the middle blocker only ever had eyes for Atsumu. Osamu kept trying to ask Suna if they wanted to do something together, but Suna always refused. After a while he gave up hope that Suna would ever reciprocate his feelings. When Samira confessed her feelings to him, he started dating her, despite his feelings for Suna. After he started dating Samira, Suna started paying more attention to him. After a few weeks, the two became very good friends. They also occasionally did something together without Atsumu being there. When Samira came to him one afternoon, her face streaming with tears, her mascara smeared over her cheeks, he didn't give it much thought. He took her into his room and calmed her down until she could tell him what was happening. I cheated on you. I am so sorry. Osamu released Samira. He looked at her hurt. He knew from the start that they wouldn't be together forever, but being cheated on still hurts. He didn't love her as much as he loves Suna, but he loved her anyway. As long as he had his brother and Suna by his side, he would be able to overcome it with no problem. Get out of my life. I don't want anything to do with you anymore. I slept with Atsumu. Stop lying. I know my brother, he would never do that to me. Samira took pictures out of her bag and handed them to Osamu. Mew, you don't have to believe me, but you should know what kind of person your brother is. He's not as innocent as he seems to be. He came over and told me he was the better of you two, that he deserved me more than you. He told me he loved me. I had a crush on him before I got together with you. I fell for him. I heard him say that you would never deserve Suna's love and that if he wanted to, he could have Suna for himself anytime. I didn't want to believe that he was like that either, but I can't close my eyes to the truth anymore. I just wanted you to know that you couldn't trust your brother. Osamu roughly grabbed Samira's shoulder and threw her out of the house. He went back to his room and looked at the pictures. He couldn't believe what Samira told him, but the pictures were clear. The images clearly showed Atsumu in Samira's room, sleeping with her. Even though he had proof of the cheating, he didn't want to believe the rest. After a few days, when he was on his way to school, he saw something he didn't want to see or hear. I love you. I've loved you for a while. I know you're in a relationship, but I love you more and I can treat you better. Please choose me. Of course I love you too. How could anyone not love you? Osamu saw Atsumu lean in and kiss Suna. End of flashback. That confession wasn't like that. I could never love Suna like this. I've known him almost my whole life. Yes, I loved him, but never in a romantic way. As for what Samira said, I would never play with Suna's feelings. I know what Akira did to him. We hung out so much at that time because that was when Akira. Atsumu looked at Suna and stopped speaking. Tears ran down his face. It's okay. I told him everything. I didn't leave Suna's side because he was always scared when he was alone. He only trusted me, so I stayed as close to him as I could. But the confession wasn't what you think. Flashback to the confession. Suna's point of view. When the doorbell rang, Suna got up, grabbed his things and went to the door. He opened it and saw his best friend. Atsumu pulled him into a tight hug. The two made their way to school when Suna suddenly stopped. I'm going to confess my feelings to Osamu. Can you help me practice my confession? Finally, you're going to confess your feelings. Of course, I'm willing to help you. Samu, I have to tell you something important. Osamu, I love you. I've loved you for a while. I know you're in a relationship, but I love you more and I can treat you better. Please choose me. Of course I love you too. How could anyone not love you? Atsumu leaned forward and kissed his best friend on the cheek. The two started laughing. You idiot, that is not how he will respond. Are you sure about that? He is kinda whipped for you. But he has a girlfriend. I know, and he loves her, but he loves you more. If you're going to confess your feeling, you will see. The two went to school together. Suna was nervous all day as he tried to talk to Osamu after training. At the end of the training, Osamu asked if they could talk alone about something important. Suna of course agreed. They made their way home together. Suna was about to say something when Osamu started to speak. You shouldn't fall for Atsumo's tricks. He will only hurt you. Just like he hurt me. What do you mean? What has he done? He slept with Samira. He took away my girl? You must misunderstand something. He would never do that. I know him better than anyone and I know he wouldn't do that. I didn't want to believe it either, but I have proof I can't deny. Osamu pulled the images out. He gave them to Suna. The middle blocker's face fell. He shook his head. That can't be true. There must be something wrong with that. It just can't be right. Osamu also told what else Samira had said. After Suna heard everything, he burst into tears. He didn't want to believe that Atsumu was talking about him like that. He couldn't believe it was true. He wanted to talk to Atsumu about it the next day immediately. Suna went home without further words and cried himself to sleep. The next morning, he looked for Atsumu at school. When he found him, he was talking to a boy. You have no right to speak to Rin. If you get close to him, I will personally make sure you never set foot in our school again. Do you think that Suna is yours? That you have a claim on him? Fuck off. Suna will never be his. I'll make sure that he stays by my side. Suna couldn't believe his ears. Was Osamu right after all, and Sumo was always playing with our feelings? Suna went in search of Osamu. Osamu comforted Suna. But seeing him so sad only made Osamu angrier. After school, the two wanted to confront Atsumu. But when Osamu saw his brother so happy with Kida, he lost his temper. He literally threw himself on his brother. He hit several times. Reference to part 1 of my story. That was the point where my story started. End of flashback. Why would you think that those words were true? The guy I spoke to was Akira's cousin. He came to talk to you. I just tried to protect you. He was his cousin. I treated you like shit because of a stupid misunderstanding. I thought what Samu told me was true. I'm so stupid. I should have just talked to you. The last 8 months of his life wasn't hell because of some stupid misunderstanding. It's because you believed the lies and didn't talk to him about it. You chose to believe what she said. You could have gone to Atsumu and talked to him about it. But you decided to abandon him. Baby, that is enough. No, he is right. They left you when you needed them the most. They should have known what your anxiety could do. They should have known that when two you love leave you, there could be futile consequences. Which anxieties? Don't act as if you don't know. He doesn't? I never had enough courage to tell him. Kida and Kagai were the only ones who knew. What anxiety? What are you talking about? I never told you how Kida and I got together. Flashback a few weeks before Atsumu and Kida got together. Atsumu's point of view. Atsumu's autophobia began when his grandmother died. Everyone around him was taking their death well, but he couldn't get over it. After everyone in his family got over her death, Atsumu started pretending everything was fine. But at the same time, he clung more and more to the people around him. He started hating being alone. He always got nervous when he was left alone. It got so bad after a while that when he was alone, he started to get panic attacks. Once, when Suna didn't come to school because he was sick and he couldn't find Osamu, he started to get scared. He was hoping that Osamu might already be in the locker room. When he opened the door, his hopes were quickly shattered. He was alone. All alone? His breathing got faster and faster. He got more and more scared. I am alone. Everyone is leaving me? Fuck, my chest hurts. Make it stop. Someone please help me. I'm afraid. Atsumu falls to the ground and clutches his chest. He could hardly breathe. The area around him was getting darker and darker. With every second he was left alone, he became more and more scared, which made his breathing even more difficult. The tearing fear he felt made his heart ache. An image that came to mind at that moment was his grandmother lying dead in a bed. He saw exactly how freedoing his grandmother looked. Lying peacefully in her bed with her hands on her stomach and looking like she was asleep. He remembered exactly falling into his brother's arms and burying his face in his chest because he couldn't bear the sight. He still wanted to tell her so much and learn from her. But it was too late. He had missed his chance. He will never see her smile again. He will never be able to eat her food again. There are no hugs from her or words of encouragement. No stories of his deceased grandfather. Atsumu could feel someone hugging him. He felt someone wipe his tears from his face. He couldn't open his eyes yet, but he was too scared to look into eyes that would judge him for being so pathetic and crying on the locker room floor. He could hear someone else consulting the room. Lock the door? I'm sure he doesn't want anyone to see him like that. Kida? Sumu, I am here for you. You are not alone. Can you open your eyes now? Atsumu shook his head. New tears ran from his eyes. He could feel second arms around him. Atsumu, you are our friend. You can trust us. We will not judge you or think worse of you. Sumu, trust us and slowly open your eyes. Atsumu slowly opened his eyes. He saw nobody. The only ones around hugged him. As they broke the embrace and sat across from him, they didn't look at him with pity or disgust. He looked into two faces that told him they understood him. The two didn't have to say anything for Atsumu to understand that they understood him. Atsumu, just because you can't take your grandmother's death as well as Osamu does, doesn't mean you're weaker than him. The problems you are struggling with are normal. When my grandfather died last year, I also had big problems. I was always afraid that I might lose the other members of my family, too. It's normal to be afraid. Everyone thinks I'm cold and robotic. They think I don't know what feelings are. But that's not true. I just don't show my feelings so I don't get hurt. I lost my parents when I was very young. They died when I was 7. Since then I don't let many people into my life so that I don't get hurt. You are not weak just because you are afraid. There are many who understand what you are going through, struggling with the same problems as you, who also think they are alone. Atsumu, it is important to know that you are not alone. You can always come to me if you need someone to talk to or if you just don't want to be alone. Atsumu had tears running down his face again. But this time, they were tears of relief. Akagi and Kita helped Atsumu so that no one would notice that he was crying. The three weren't really friends before this incident. They were just teammates. But, after this incident, they became closer and closer. Whenever Suna or Osamu didn't have time, they did something together. Kita and Atsumu became particularly close. The image that Atsumu had of Kita was completely wrong. The captain isn't as cold and reserved as he seems to be. When Kita showed someone his true self, he was very caring. Atsumu could see who Kita really was. He slowly fell in love with Kita. He loved spending more and more time with Kita. A week passed after Atsumu realized his feelings. Atsumu couldn't hide his feelings anymore. He went home to Kita and wanted to confess his feelings to him. He made his way to Kita. When he was close to his destination, he suddenly got scared. Afraid of being rejected and afraid of losing his new friends. Atsumu's breathing became increasingly difficult. Luckily, Kita was in the garden when Atsumu collapsed. Kita quickly ran to him and picked him up. Atsumu, what happened? Why are you here? Can you promise me one thing? Of course, everything you want. If I tell you why I'm here, please don't hate me. I could never hate you. I am here to tell you that I am gay and I am madly in love with you. I love you too, Atsumu. You do love me? Of course. How could I not love you? End of flashback. Osamu had tears in his eyes. He tried to hold them back. He clung to Suna. He heard slight sobs next to him. He saw tears running down his face. He put his arm over his shoulder and pulled him into his arms. So basically you have anxiety? And I never realized that. Actually, it is not just a anxiety, it is a phobia. You have a phobia? Yes, it's called autophobia. How come you never told me about it? I could have helped you. It's not as easy to talk about a phobia as you think. At the beginning I also had difficulties telling my family about my fears. Atsumu squeezed Kiyumi's hand. He looked over at his lover. Atsumu straightened up and kissed Kiyumi on the cheek. I was very afraid to tell anyone about my fears. I couldn't handle the death of our grandmother. I couldn't accept that she wasn't there anymore. I didn't want to burden you, Samu, with it, and Suna, you had enough problems of your own back then. At that time, Kita helped me a lot to process her death. But when you turned your back on me and I lost the two most important people in my life, I felt so helpless. The memories brought tears to Atsumu's eyes. He sniffed and wiped away the tears that escaped his eyes with his arm. Kiyumi looked at Atsumu. He released his hand from Atsumu's grip and wrapped his arm around his back. He pulled his lover closer to him. Atsumu rested his head on his ace's shoulder. Kiyumi placed light kisses on the blonde hair. Toya? On it? Motoya got up and went to the table where there was a bottle of water. He poured a glass and brought it to Atsumu. The setter sat up straight again and took the glass. Thank you, Toya. I felt so lonely after not being able to talk to you guys anymore. Kita made it bearable, but I couldn't bear the fact that you guys treated him so badly that I broke up with him. After I had no one anymore, I didn't see the meaning of life anymore. My condition kept getting worse. Kita and Kajai tried to help me as best as they could. After hearing strangers who didn't really know me talk shit about me, I didn't have the strength to fight my depression anymore. Realizing that strangers were getting a picture of me without even speaking to me made me feel so lonely and abandoned. I went to the tracks and wanted to kill myself. Luckily, Kida saw me on the way to the tracks and followed me. He sat down next to me and made me feel like I wasn't alone. He was able to convince me that my life was not worthless. That evening he took me to his house. When the coach told me the next day that I was invited to the All-Japan Youth Training Camp, it gave me some hope that my life would take a turn for the better. Which it did. You met Kiyomi and I and changed the lives of all three of us for the better. Tears ran down Atsumo's face again. He started sobbing. He clung tighter to Kiyomi than before. The wing spiker immediately noticed the small but obvious change in Atsumo's posture. There's something I didn't tell you about the night I went up on the roof in the middle of the night. The rumors going around the school was, not everything that happened. Samira's brother went to the same school. He believes what Samira said, and he makes my life a lot harder. The day I went to training, he approached me and threatened me. Atsumu was always very afraid to tell his lover what happened that day. Kiyomi saw the fear in Atsumu's eyes. He took Atsumu's legs and placed them over his. He pulled his lover into his lap. He embraced his lover. Baby, you don't need to be afraid to tell us what happened. Toya and I will always love you. What did Samira's brother do? Did he touch you or push you into something you didn't want? Atsumu burst into tears. He clung to Kiyomi as tightly as he could. His breathing became faster and faster. Motoya knew immediately what was going on and wrapped his arms around Atsumu. You don't have to tell us anything if you're not ready to. Baby, breathe. Calm down. We are here for you. You are not alone. You will never be alone again. We're going to stick by your side. Osamu got up and went to the 3. He knelt down in front of Atsumu and put his hand on his brother's leg. I know I treated you like shit for half a year. I want to change. I want to have you back as my brother. No matter what he did. I will support you from now on. Atsumu slowly calmed down. The presence of his brother and realizing that Osamu had really changed calmed him down a lot. He was still afraid to tell them what happened that day, but as long as he had faith in Kiyomi and Motoya, he could tell them. If they stayed by his side when he cheated on Kiyomi, they wouldn't leave him even after he told them everything. Baby, I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. And especially that I didn't say anything when I promised you that I won't have any more secrets from you. That's fine. I'm just glad you want to tell me. Now, flashback to the day Atsumu went to the camp. Atsumu's point of view. Atsumu was waiting in front of the school for the bus that went to the station. As he waited, he noticed a group of boys who went to the same school as him. He tried to ignore them, but the things they said hurt him a lot. The blonde Miya twin was invited to the All-Japan Youth Camp. Osamu deserves it much more. At least he's not a cheater and sneaky like Atsumu. I heard he forced Kida-san to stay with him. That he threatened to put him into the hospital if he broke up. I heard that he had been cheating on Kida-san with different people for months. Atsumu had to hold back his tears. He hated it when people spread rumors about him. People who had no idea what was going on in his life. He could no longer listen to the group of boys. He went in between two buildings and sat down. He put his head between his legs and started to cry. Someone grabbed his shoulder and pulled him up. He looked into a face that seemed familiar to him. It was a boy who looked very similar to Samira. The boy pressed him against the wall. You dared to touch my sister? I will personally make sure your life becomes hell. I didn't touch your sister. I'm gay. I have no interest in your sister. That doesn't make things any better. You slept with my sister with no feelings for her? You destroyed her relationship? I haven't done anything wrong. Your sister is spreading lies about me? I would never have betrayed my brother, and I love Kita. I could never have cheated on him. Tell that to someone who believes your bullshit. You don't deserve the love of anyone. How could anyone love you? You have such a horrible personality. If you're staying in the life of your friends, it will destroy them. Like you destroyed the life of your brother, your best friend, and my sister. Since you had your fun with my sister, I will get my pleasure from you. Get away. Samira's brother forced a kiss on him. Atsumu pushed him away, but this only made the other angrier. He punched Atsumu in the stomach, making Atsumu gasp. The boy grabbed him and pushed him back against the wall. Atsumu tried to defend himself, but after the third punch he couldn't defend himself anymore. The boy slipped his hand under Atsumu's shirt and started kissing him. Atsumu closed his eyes and prayed that someone would come to his aid. The boy slipped his hand into Atsumu's pants. You're gay, so you should enjoy it. Nobody else wants to touch a dirty bastard like you. What the hell are you doing? Atsumu? Kagai? Help me, please? Let him go or I'll call the police. The boy let go of Atsumu. He raised his hands in a defensive position. He took a step back. Atsumu ran to Akagi and threw himself into his friend's arms. He wanted it too. Such a dirty fag. Like him begs you to touch him? No, you have no idea who Atsumu is. Fuck off before I lose my temper and cut off your dirty dick. If I ever see you near Atsumu again, I'll make sure you never see the light of day again. Samira's brother disappeared. Akagi took Atsumu's bag. He took Atsumu back into his embrace. Let's go to the bus stop. Kita is already waiting for us. Please don't tell him about it. He worries enough about me. I will go to the training camp and there I can recover from everything that has gone wrong in the last few weeks. I beg you not to say anything to Kita. Well, I won't say anything if you promise to call me if something happens. You can call me anytime you are scared or need someone to talk to. If you feel lonely, bring it up and think of me and Kita. Maybe it'll help a little so you don't feel lonely. Akagi took out a picture frame and gave it to Atsumu. In the picture you could see Atsumu, Kita, and Akagi all hugging and laughing about something together. Atsumu remembered the day well. It was one of the few days that he was fine. Thank you, Akagi. That means a lot to me. The two went to the bus stop where Kita was already waiting for them. When he saw Atsumu's condition, he ran to him and took him in his arms. Tsu, what happened? Why did you cry? I've heard a few people talk about me, about us. Don't let their words get to you. You know it's not true what they say. The most important thing is that you and I know the truth about us. Thank you, Shin, for always being by my side. I don't know what I would do without you two. You give me so much strength. The three were waiting for the bus. Akagi and Kita waved goodbye to Atsumu. Without knowing what Samira's brother's action triggered in him. Samira's brother is right. I destroy the lives of those around me. I don't deserve to live. I should end the suffering of others once and for all. I just want this 1 week and one last time to do what I love. I will never go home again. End of flashback. You were planning to kill yourself? You told us it was just a knee-jerk reaction because you were afraid to go home. Kiyumi stood up and had a tear streaming down his face. Again, we have reached the end of part 14. I have an Instagram account where I will make updates and where I will upload smut scenes. Omis_Itsu99. Join my Discord server. I'm occasionally in the voice channel. If I am in the voice channel, I will announce it on Insta. Link is in the description. I apologize for the grammatical errors. Write me a comment how you liked the story. Don't forget to follow. If someone wants a video, please let me know it. I will try to write your ideas as best as possible.